So the message tonight, how many of y'all, by a raise of hands, let me know, are now officially back in school? Like you have either had a couple of days of school or like a little bit over a week of school. Okay, so pretty much all of you, I'm not back in school yet. I'm not back in school yet. I still have T minus. T minus way too few amount of days. It'll be here before I know it. I start next week, Monday and Tuesday, so I'm gonna be right there with you guys in the grind. And I just want to say seriously, like I know the school year has started, and I'm sure for probably each and every single one of us, we're going to be experiencing some sort of struggle, some sort of transition in routine, some sort of difference. Maybe for some of us we won't, but I know for a lot of us it's going to be that way. It's going to be difficult getting used to what classrooms look like now, and maybe not being able to interact with our friends and do the things that we normally would do without if COVID didn't exist. And so listen, I'm telling you tonight, seriously, I and the team, all of us leaders, your parents, the staff here at the Gateway Church, we are praying for you. And what I mean by that is that we're praying for you, and we are believing that this year, regardless of what the differences may look like, how much of a more of a struggle it may be, that this year is going to be, with its challenges, a year of growth. There's going to be an awesome time. It's going to be an awesome year, and I'm praying for that. I'm praying that each and every single one of us who are here, whether we are going to a public school or whether we're back and homeschooled, starting that again, regardless, whatever our schooling looks like, I'm believing that each and every single one of you, in some way, in some form, are going to have an impact, an influence on somebody in your life, whether that's a parent, whether that is a teacher, whether that's one of your favorite coaches or one of your favorite lunch ladies. How many of y'all go to public school and got a favorite lunch lady? Does no one have a favorite? You got a favorite lunch lady? I had a favorite lunch lady. I remember going to school, and I would make sure to go in her line, because the other line, there was two lines, and you knew you didn't want to go in that line. And that line was like the shortest line. It was the really, really long line that everybody wanted to go to, because that lunch lady, she was awesome. She was like the bomb.com. She was a lot of fun. So maybe it's a lunch lady. I don't know. Maybe it's a principal. I don't know who it's going to be in your life, but I'm believing that there is going to be someone that's going to be impacted by you, not just because each and every single one of you are awesome people, but as we look and we talk later tonight, each and every single one of us influence somebody. And so that's what I want to talk about this evening, is being intentional with our influence. That we're starting back up school. We're back again surrounded by these people that we've maybe been away from for quite some time because of the virtual, what happened in the spring with COVID. We're going to jump in and we're going to talk about being intentional with that influence now that we're back to seeing some of these people. So before we jump into scripture, I want to kind of give you a definition so that we're all on the same page. We're walking, we're moving in the same direction. We understand what I'm going to be talking about. So earlier today, I decided to go ahead and hop on the good old Google. Google is like one of my best friends. It will be, especially throughout school, will be more than a best friend. I don't know what's better than a best friend, before or in between. Yeah, but I'm kind of already married, so Google's got to go below my wife, so they can just stay at best friend. We'll just say me and Google are going to be best friends. That's like, you're falling down the list there if you're an ex. Don't want none of that. I'm just kidding. Anyways, moving on. So I decided to hop into Google, and I Googled influence. What is the definition of influence? Because I'm the type of person, I'll be honest with you, I'm not the smartest. I don't claim to be the smartest. I can do okay in school, but like if you tell me a word and you ask me the definition of majority of simple words, I would look at you and just be like, I don't know. I don't know what these words mean. So that's why me and Google are really good friends, because I do this a lot. I Google the definition of words a lot. And so I Googled influence, and this is what it says. Influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself. So I know some of you may already be thinking, if I was you at your age in those seats listening to myself speak, I already, with hearing what the title that we were talking about tonight, about being intentional with our influence, about me talking about how I believe and I'm praying that each and every single one of you are going to influence somebody. In my mind right now, if I was your age, in your seats, I would be thinking, nah, bro, not a chance. Ain't no way it's happening. I don't influence nobody. I don't have an impact on anybody. Nobody listens to me. I'm just a quiet little okay, maybe I wasn't little, but I'm just a quiet old big old Drew who doesn't really do a whole lot. I like to play sports. I like to hang out with friends, but influence and impact somebody? Ain't no way, that's not me. So maybe that's some of you tonight, but I'm going to tell you, I did a little bit of a research. And what sociologists say, so people who study behavior and study people and communities and how they work and how they interact and do different things, sociologists have nailed it down that even the most introverted people, so an introvert is someone who's really quiet, who's really shy, who doesn't really like to be outwardly expressive. They're kind of more calm, and they'll talk to a few people, have some close friends, but they won't branch out. They won't be super extroverted. They're introverted, so they're more to themselves. And sociologists have studied and done the research and have proven that even the most introverted and quiet people throughout their entire lifetime will influence, on average, 10,000 people. That's a lot of people. Like, imagine if you were in the room with 10,000 people, you're on a stage and you're looking out at a crowd of 10,000 people, and that is, if you're an introverted person, that's the amount of people on average you will be influencing in your entire lifetime. 10,000 people. That's a lot of people to have an impact. That's a lot of people that you have an influence. So now let's imagine going up a little bit. Let's say you're mostly extroverted. Could you imagine how many people then you're going to impact? You'll double, triple, maybe even quadruple that 10,000 and be influencing 20, 30, 40,000. Imagine if one of you in this room goes viral or goes famous on YouTube. You're influencing millions, hundreds of thousands of people. That's a possibility. The reality is each and every single one of us influence somebody. And it's not just a couple of people. We influence a ton of people. So whether you're quiet or whether you're loud, whether you're bold, we are influencing someone all the time. And how many of you know that this influence can go one of two ways? This influence can be a good influence, leading people towards a good direction, showing people how to do things the right way, or a bad way. We can influence people in the wrong way. And how many of you have had that friend? I definitely did. Mom, if you're watching, I love you. You were probably right. I listened to you mostly, I'd say. But I had this certain time, certain people that I would try to hang out with in school, and I would come home and I go, hey, I'm leaving. She's like, okay, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to hang out with a friend. And she's like, okay, what friend? And I'm like, oh, it's my so-and-so friend. And they're like, Mom goes, honey, you shouldn't be hanging out with that person. And then what does she say? She says, they're a bad influence on you, right? We've all been there. How many of y'all have had a friend like that or know somebody? Your mom said that to you at some point, right? You can have a good influence on somebody, or you can have a bad influence on somebody and steer people in the wrong direction. And I know you may be thinking, how in the world do I influence that many people? 10,000, 20, 30, 40, who knows on average? How do I do that? What do you mean? And I'll be honest with you, it's really not that hard to influence somebody, because it really falls under two big categories of how we influence people. We either influence people through our actions, through something that we do, or we influence people through our words, something that comes out of our mouths. And so, for example, in my life, to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you who or when this kind of influence had snuck into my life, but an example of something that I like to do, an action that was shown to me that I'll do often, is simply holding the door open for people. That is, if you and you are about to walk into a restaurant, I'll make sure to take those first extra couple steps. Maybe it's probably because I'm taller than you, so I've got longer strides, so I kind of beat you there anyways, but I get to the door first, and I make sure I get to that door, and I'm holding that door open for you. Why? Because I remember a time, I couldn't tell you who, but there was somebody who influenced, who had an impact on me, who said, let me open up the door and serve you. And that was a positive influence that happened. And it's something that's so simple. And I think that's why I chose this example to share with you, is because it's really simple. It's not as hard as we may seem or make it feel like it is to influence somebody. It's not like you have to be this extra famous person who has so many followers on an Instagram or a YouTube that, oh, they have more influence because they are more popular. They're a star. They're famous on YouTube. Of course, they're going to influence me. But in reality, simple, small gestures, like simply opening up a door for somebody, had an influence and an impact on my life in such a way that now I do that for others. And then imagine it's like the domino effect of now that person did that for me, now my domino fell over, and now I do that for someone else, and that their domino falls over. And it's just like this snowballing, rolling effect of how we influence people. And it can be something as simple as opening a door. And like I said, I don't even remember who showed me that. Someone just had that impact. And so now we think about that simple example of holding a door, and then that simple example can snowball into plenty of other examples. If it's really that easy to influence or have an impact on somebody by simply holding a door for somebody, imagine all the other kinds of simple things that each of us do every single day that has an impact for somebody. As simple as writing a note to a friend that you slip in their notebook throughout the day that they don't notice until they open it someday and they find that note that you put there. That simple action that you took to put that note had an influence, and maybe they were having a rough day and they decided to read that note and they kept that note. And now they use that every single time they're having a bad day. Listen, man, it's simple. It's not difficult or hard to influence people. Each and every single one of us do it. And so just imagine the examples. And oftentimes when I think about those examples, words come to mind. There were a lot of catchy phrases or words that I catch on to so quick because I saw it in a video. I saw it because someone said it and it was stinking hilarious. And now I want to say it again because I thought it was so funny and I want to make people laugh, so I'm going to say it too. I mean, there were tons and tons of words that just come to mind when I think about examples of words that someone has said that has influenced me. And a lot of times it was my youth pastor. My youth pastor would come up with phrases. I remember there was a time where I don't even know what this word means. I don't even know if it's a real word. But he said it once, and because he said it, like a ton of us in the youth group started saying it, and it became a thing. It became kind of trendy. But the word was shabomba. Like, what? What does that mean, shabomba? S-H-A-B-O-M-B, shabomba. Oh, B-A at the end, B-A at the end. Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I don't even know if that's a real word. But because he said it, it rolled out and it became a trendy thing. And a word, something as simple as that, had an influence, had an impact, and it was funny to us. We would get together as leaders and we would talk about it. We would say this word. Someone would say something maybe a little funny, and we would all just look at each other and just go, shabomba. And we would all just start busting out laughing. There's words after words, so many of you that you can think about. Another word that I used to say all the time, and I actually say all the time now, is dope. I say, oh, that's dope. Oh, that's so dope, bro. Oh, bro, you're so dope. I say dope all the time. But, I mean, dope's not actually a good thing. What dope actually is, it's a bad thing. But I say it all the time because someone in a video or trendy at some point in the world in a video, I don't even know how that started. But you can see the trickle effect. And the reality is that people influence you. And it comes through certain simple things. And so that's really what I want to focus on more tonight, is the reality of the words that we say, the things that come out of our mouths that influence the people that we're communicating with. So now let's go ahead and jump into Scripture. If you've got your Bibles with you, open it up to the book of James, pretty darn stinking close to the very back of your Bible. I'm going to be in James chapter 3. I'm going to be reading verses 1 through 12, and what we're going to be looking at is James is telling us, the author of James, is telling us how to tame our tongue. So let's start in verse 1 real quick. It says, "Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness." Thank you, James. That just really lifts me up. You know, as a teacher, that really lifts me up. I'm going to be judged more strictly. Verse 2, "For we all stumble in many ways, and if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle his whole body." Verse 3, if we put bits into the mouths of horses so that they obey us, we guide their whole bodies as well. Look at the ships also. Though they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are guided by a very small rudder wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. And the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by mankind, but no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing. My brothers, these things ought not to be so. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh and salt water? Can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives, or a grapevine produce figs? Neither can a salt pond yield fresh water. So we read a lot. I know that was a lot, but we're going to digest it. And we see what James is talking about here is the power of the tongue. And he uses quite a few examples to illustrate this idea of how this power works. The first example that he uses that confused me at first because I'm not a horseback rider, I don't know much about horses, was a horse bit. Now, what in the world is a horse bit? So I Googled it again. My best friend Google. We're back at it again. So I Googled horse bit. And what do I figure out? It's this small little thing that goes into the mouth of the horse so that the little straps that are attached to it, that when you're on the horse that you hold on to, those are attached to that bit that is then in the mouth of the horse. And what that does is that gives you control. That with the straps that you're holding on to, you can control the horse. You can steer the horse in the direction that you want it to go, rather than the horse doing what it probably wants to do, and that's just to fly around with you on it and do whatever it wants to do. You now have control because of that in its mouth. And the next example that he uses is a boat. And he talks about how large and how big these boats are, and the fact that the winds and the waves push these boats around and steer and direct and move these boats. But yet such a small little rudder, a thing that's at the bottom of the boat, really is in what's in control, that whoever is at the steering wheel of the boat that's able to move that rudder either left or right is really what's in control. And in the same way as the horse bit and in the same way as this small rudder, this is how the power of our tongue works. It's a small part of our body. The overall capacity that our tongue takes versus everything the rest of our body, it's such a small percentage. And it's such a small object, but yet it controls so much of our lives. And it has the ability to steer us in our different directions. And so next, James uses this illustration of a fire and how a small, tiny spark can spread and cause and create this ginormous raging fire. And we're actually seeing this idea happen in real life in California right now. That because of a baby gender reveal that went wrong, there are thousands of acres in California right now burning. That's such a small little tiny spark, a mistake that happened during a baby gender reveal. Now there are hundreds and thousands of acres in California that are burning. People are needing to go in to be rescued out of this place. And how many of y'all know our tongue can do the same thing? We can say just something, just one word, a tiny little spark that can set an entire forest, an entire community on fire, that causes divide, that causes division. Man, today now more than ever, do you have to be careful the words that come out of your mouth, because you say one wrong thing and the world is judging you. The world is so quick to condemn you. The world is so quick to throw you under the bus, to be able to step all over you so that they can elevate themselves. Now more than ever, do we have to be careful? Do we have to be watching what's coming out of our mouths? A tiny spark has the ability to create such a huge fire. It's a small object, but it has a big impact. So James also goes on to use some pretty distinct, pretty clear, and effective language to describe what this is like. He says the tongue is a restless evil. It's full of deadly poison. And I don't think there's anyone in this room that's denying any of these types of things. We all, more than likely each of us sitting here tonight, at some point or another in our lives, have either been judged or have experienced some sort of hurt or pain because of what someone said to us or about us. Maybe it was a family member that had just rubbed us the wrong way. Maybe it wasn't even intentional, but someone said something that caused the pain, that sparked maybe a trauma or something that you had experienced in your life. And we all understand, we know that there's power in our tongue. And we're not denying the fact or the truth that our mouths, our words have the ability to create some nasty messes. And we are all guilty of this too, of saying some words, doing some things that maybe we shouldn't have been doing, that was the spark in someone else's life, that because of what you said, now someone was influenced and impacted and now angry. And James tells us clearly that this should not be so. That the way that we use our tongues and our words to both bless our Father, our Heavenly Father, the God who created us, and also use it the very next moment or the very next day to curse the people that are made in the likeness, that are made in the image of God. James tells us this should not be so. That's not how it's supposed to be. That's not what it's supposed to be like. This isn't how it's supposed to work. We're not called to use these words that we speak, the things that come out of our mouths, to be judgmental, to be rude or damaging. We're meant to use these words to influence, to bless, to love, to speak hope, to speak life into people's lives, not to be a bully or to be destroying or to be hurtful. And I got to be honest, when I think about this, my mind always goes to myself driving in the car. My wife knows this very well. You can ask her about it. Me driving in the car is a dangerous place to be sometimes, not because of myself. I'm not a reckless driver. I drive very careful. I drive safe. I would say I probably don't fit the typical youth pastor vibe of the speedy, let's go 100 miles an hour with you students in the car because it's fun type of a thing. I don't fit that. That's not me. I'll be honest with you. I'm real straightforward. I use what's called a cruise. So when you get to the age of driving, it's there in your car for a reason. Use it, please. It's helpful. It really does help. It's a good thing. That's true. It's called the Autobahn. Autobahn, something like that. Yeah, that is true. You're not wrong. But use the cruise, okay? When you get there, I'm telling you, it'll change your life. So I don't drive crazy. I don't drive reckless, but I do know people who do drive reckless. And I don't know if I'm just, those type of people are attracted to me. I don't know if they just see me. They look at my red car. Oh, he driving a Cadillac. I'm going to show this dude. And they're just like gone. I don't know what it is, but people just like to drive reckless around me. Or I don't know, maybe it's probably just me that's noticing the people who drive reckless. I get it. It's me. I'll own up to it. But man, my gears get so grinded so fast when I'm on the road. And I see someone who is driving recklessly, weaving in and out of traffic, who, for whatever reason, somehow passed driver's training without learning how a four-way stop works. Sometimes it means at a four-way stop that you actually have to wait for one, maybe two, even three vehicles to go. It's not just you stop, one person goes, and then that means it's your turn. Can you tell I'm a little fired up about it, maybe a little bit? I get angry. It grinds my gears. I kid you not. You can ask Becca. It'll send me through the roof. I mean, there have been times where people have honked at me, and I will, without even thinking, blinking, roll down my window. What you talking about? Who you honking at, son? What you mean? It's probably not the best thing to do. It absolutely is not the best thing to do, but I get fired up. And so this is where my mind goes when I think about the words that I say. And oftentimes, when I'm driving on the road and people are doing things, I say some things that I shouldn't be saying. Like, man, what are they doing? Man, they need to go back to driver's training. Grandma, get off the road. What are you doing? You're too old to be driving. You're like squinting. You're riding like this, driving the car. Bro, come on. And I say, I'm like, ooh, man. The conviction hits in, and then I'm like, okay, maybe I got to slow down a little bit. And I shouldn't be saying these things that I'm saying. So this is where my mind goes, trying to wrap my head around the idea of the power of our words. And though the fact is true that the people may not hear what I'm saying in my car, but I can tell you somebody who does. Jesus. He hears what you're saying. He knows where your heart's at. He knows the intentions of the words that come out of your mouth. And so it's not even about whether the person that you're talking to hears it or not. And I get it. Man, I drive a lot. I'm about to be driving every Monday and Tuesday to Grand Rapids and back. And I'm going to have a lot of time on the road. And that might end up meaning I'm going to have to ask the Lord to help me a lot. And I get it. It's hard. I know that's it's a funny, stupid example. But the day in and day out struggle of life, that when we're facing situations, life is just a struggle, it can be so easy to use our words in a manner to influence people in the wrong way, to say some things that we shouldn't be saying, do some things that we shouldn't be doing because of the stress, because of the anxiety, because of what we've got going on in our lives. We're quick to judge others first about what they've got going on in their lives. When in reality, the words that we're saying, we have to keep ourselves in check. And the reality is, it's really difficult to call ourselves true, genuine Christians, true, genuine Christ followers, when nothing but judgment, nothing but anger, nothing but damaging words are coming out of our mouths. Because I've had times in my life where I'll say something to somebody, and they straight up looked at me back in my face and said, "Didn't you say you're a Christian? Didn't you say you love Jesus or you go to church?" And this is how they act. Saying stuff like that, doing things like that, being so judgmental about what I've got going on. I've had people straight up tell me to my face, "Hey, you say you love Jesus? You say you're a Christian, right?" And then I influence them in the wrong way, showing them that Christianity is about being judgmental. We know that's not the truth, but that's what they see. That's what they hear. That's what they think. That when we call ourselves Christians and we say that we go to church, but yeah, that when we go back to school and we're telling people about how awesome church was, but then we're gossiping and we're talking smack about people, we're influencing people in the bad way, we're using some words, we're being first, we're so quick to be the first ones to judge, to point out what others got going wrong in their lives. What do you think people see that as? It's tough. James 3, verse 10 says, "From the same mouth come blessing and cursing. My brothers, these things ought not to be so. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh and salt water? No, they don't. If it's a freshwater spring, it's going to spring up fresh water. You can't be doing both. You can't get both salt water and fresh water from the same opening. Can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives? No, it's a fig tree. It bears figs. It's not meant to bear olives. Or a grapevine produce figs. Neither can a salt pond yield fresh water." We can't label ourselves as one thing, but yet be a people who produce a completely different thing. So my heart tonight is that we would understand the power in our words, the power in our influence, and the reality that each and every single one of you here tonight influence somebody. Whether you may believe that or not, you're going to leave this place and you're going to do things, you're going to say things, and you are going to influence people. It's the nature of how we live. It's the nature of how people and human beings work. We're constantly being influenced by people. And now more than ever, because of social media, how much faster we're able to digest and bring in so much more information. We're able to see so much more that's happening around the globe that we couldn't used to even 100 years ago. We are being influenced daily within seconds. If you're just scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or TikTok and you're watching certain videos, every single video that you are watching, someone in some way is having an influence on you. It's the truth, it's the nature, and there is power in influence. So we have to understand that as Christians, as Christ followers, we are called to have an influence. And I can tell you firsthand, straight up, bro, I am not perfect at this. I was honest with you. I opened up. I told you all about me driving in the car. It happens. That's truth. I'm going to be open. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing. I'm not going to make it seem like, oh, I'm the youth pastor. I got to make myself look all perfect. No, I'm going to be straight up, be the first one to tell you before anybody. I'm not perfect at this. Maybe that's why the Lord's been speaking this into my heart to share with you guys. I'm not perfect at it. Nobody is going to be perfect at it. What does James say? It says, no human being can tame the tongue. But it's not about messing up or being perfect. It's about allowing Jesus into our hearts and begin to pull this stuff out of us. Begin to pull the things out of us that are influencing us in the wrong way. Pull the things out of us that we might be doing, that we might be saying, that's influencing others in the wrong way. And if there was any single person who has ever lived or walked this planet that understood the influence, that understood the power of words, it's the Sunday school Bible answer: Jesus. Jesus understood more than anybody who has ever walked this planet the power of words. He walked in authority. He walked in righteousness. He always knew what he was doing, what he was supposed to say, the right timing for the right people. Because he knew the influence, the impact that he was having. And that it was going to be through his actions, through his words, that Jesus has now influenced the most people out of any single other person who has ever walked this earth. Millions of people have been impacted because of him. And he still wants that to happen today. He still wants people to experience a changed heart, to be influenced by some people's words in a positive way, for change, for them to experience Jesus. And the cool part is that task, that reality, that thought about Jesus, how he wants everyone to be influenced, has been given to you, has been given to me. It's been given to all of us. That we are to be the people, the light in the darkness, the people who are influencing the people who are lost, who are speaking words of life, speaking words of love. So here tonight, whether you're watching with us online or whether you're here with us in person, I want to just take a couple of seconds real quick. We're going to take a couple of seconds real quick in a minute to respond to this word tonight. And the thing I want us to be thinking about when I tell you to, when you bow your heads and you close your eyes, is how am I influencing people? That's the question I want you to be thinking about. Am I showing people Jesus? Am I using my actions, my words, my influence to point people to Jesus in a good way, to show them the love that the Father has for them, the truth that Jesus desires a relationship with them? Because I got to be honest, if God, who created the heavens and the earth, who created each and every single one of us, who created everything on this earth, everything in heaven, chose to use words I mean, this is what the Bible is. It's words. It's in written form, but it's words. If God, who created the heavens and the earth, chose to use words, we have to understand that there's a reason for that. God just didn't make that decision willy-nilly. I'm going to use language to have an impact on millions of people. There's a reason. We have to understand that there is power, there is influence in the things that we say. And we have the ability. The ball is in our court. It is up to us. Are we going to be a people? Are we going to be true, genuine Christ followers who choose to use our words, who choose to use our influence to impact our schools, whether you're homeschooled or whether you're in public school, to impact your family, to impact those people that you interact with, even to the people that you may see once in your life and you'll never see them again? Are we going to use that influence for good, to point people to Jesus, to give somebody every single day a taste of what it looks like to feel, to sense, to know the love that the Father has for each and every single person? That's the question tonight. So let's bow our heads. Let's close our eyes. And go ahead and pray right now. Go ahead and ask the Lord. Say, Jesus, tonight, how am I influencing people? What does my impact look like? Am I showing people the love that you have? Or am I someone who's so quick to be judgmental, so quick to spew out words in my mouth that are angry, that are causing division, that are causing people to be impacted in such a way that they're hurt? What does my influence look like? What does my impact look like?